Thank you very much, Betty. Good afternoon, and let me begin by congratulating the organizers of the Business Outlet on their continued success in bringing together policymakers, regulators, and the business community to keep the conversation current on developments in the economy of our country, and certainly here in Freeport. We acknowledge the presence of the distinguished representatives of government, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, business, and industry. But we especially want to recognize the budding entrepreneurs and the future business leaders of our country in the presence of the school children who are here. Thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts as the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce on how we might optimize the Freeport model for sustainable growth and for the development of our country. In doing so, we initially reflect on all of the many conferences held here, talking about the future of Freeport and the potential of Freeport, and reflect that over the years, much has not changed. But we are encouraged to continue to believe in Freeport, and we believe that Freeport will certainly one day catch the right wind and certainly go forward. I believe that to achieve real change in Freeport, we have to look at a whole range of issues that have come out of discussions within our membership, and have been during the course of the last year discussed at length by the business community of Freeport. And so our comments today reflect really the views of the wider business community, the debates we've had, the issues we've talked about, and the key matters that have emerged as important to us for the future of Freeport. Not all inclusive, but important because these are the issues that people who are invested in Freeport, whose lives and enterprises depend on Freeport, believe are important to their future. That we are all still here is, in my judgment, a testament to our love of this place and our belief that substantive change can really happen here in Freeport. August 2015, we suggest, is a watershed date for Freeport and for this country. We see it as the drop-dead date by which reason suggests that we must decide a new framework for delivery on the promise of Freeport. This date is the last contractually triggered opportunity within the current framework of the Hawksville Agreement, by which those who have a stake in the future of Freeport should seek to arrive at an intelligent determination of what should be the final structure and the targeted impact of this agreement through the balance of its life through 2054. Considering the history and the quality of results over the past 59 years, and they've been good, they've been bad, certainly they've been mixed, it would be prudent for us to make very serious efforts to plan and to clearly target the economic impact of the HCA for Freeport and for the country during the remaining 40 years of its existence. To get the work done and make the date of 2054, the process, in our view, must start now. And a comprehensive, not a piecemeal solution, must be sought. We appreciate that a process such as this will be difficult and challenging. But in the words of my good friend, Dr. Darby, would like to say this, I think we're all challenged to be on the right side of history with this one. In our view, the process of negotiation cannot be as it was in 1992. And I was there, I was a part of the process. It cannot be a process of bartering what will the GBBO give us in return for extension of certain provisions. That should not be the process in our view. It must instead be a process of collaboration to determine how can we together create and give effect to a go-forward operating structure for Freeport that enables it to compete successfully against other business centers of the world. August 2015 is a high-profile date. The last date of expiry of significant provisions of the Hawkwood Agreement, and therefore the opportunity to reset, to establish, really for the first time in a modern Bahamas, a policy framework for Freeport as an international center for business and trade. Our submission is that we should make it our solution, a way forward crafted by a new generation of leadership, committing to a model that addresses our aspirations as a people and as business investors in this space, while also laying unassailable groundwork for significant economic success and growth for the future. All of this we're considering and discussing in the current economic stew that we have here in Freeport. In our view, there are many ingredients in the pot that need to be flavored, that need to be seasoned, and in the view of the Chamber, in some cases, need to be removed so as to be palatable to business, and so as to create a new and viable set of possibilities for Freeport. I mentioned earlier the intense debate that has taken place in Freeport over the last year and a half, certainly over the last 2 years of the Chamber's life. And I must commend as a long-time Freeporter that the vibrancy, the animation, the engagement that I've seen from licensees in Freeport over the last 18 months for sure is second to none. And it's a good and healthy thing. Out of all of those discussions have come a number of key ideas that certainly our membership and our licensees, and when I say licensees, I want to just make a side comment. I was in a discussion a few days ago about the size of the Chamber's membership, and the person remarked that you only have about 300-400 members, and correct statement, but one of my directors who was in the meeting put the statement in context and observed that, for the Chamber, among those 300 to 400 members, you take out the government workers in Freeport, they have more than 65%. They represent more than 65% of the employed persons in Freeport. So those 400 companies employ about 65% of the non-government workers in Freeport. This group that represents our membership and licensees have focused on a number of areas that they feel are very, very important and have to be factored into the mix for the future of Freeport. They have to be addressed and resolved if we're going to have a way forward for Freeport going into 2015 and beyond. First point that they raise is there must be recognition that the new Customs Management Act, as amended in 2013, is an impediment to recovery of Freeport's trade economy. I'm pleased to hear the comments made earlier today by the Minister, and we look forward to see what really eventuates from the pronouncements that have been made. A second observation that's been made by our membership consistently certainly over the last year, is that there has to be a consensus approach to that, or any other new tax that is imposed by government. Again, we're encouraged to hear the discussion that took place today on the presentation from John. Those of you who follow the Chamber's activities in the press, you know that we presented to the Bahamas government last week and to the Minister from Bahamas this week the considered views of, again, the stakeholders in Freeport on that. Not a very narrow view, one that reflected support, opposition to it, and views, all manner of views in between. But capturing the essence of what Freeport business people see as some of the key issues that have to be resolved in respect of that. The third point raised by our membership is that there must be aggressive and consistent collection of existing taxes. You can't have a discussion about new taxes in the absence of real effort, measurable effort in the area of collection of existing taxes. And tied to that in a different way, there has to be, another point, a significant reduction in public sector spending. We can't continue to spend in the public sector money we don't have. We understand the implications of trying to reduce the size of the public sector, but in the real world, Callie and I were talking earlier, if you have more employees that are producing well for you or that you can afford to pay, you don't go out and borrow money to pay. You make suggestions. We appreciate the enormity of that discussion, but in the real world, where you're having businesses pay more to finance their government, that is a part of the equation that has to be factored into the mix of decisions and actions as we go forward. Another point raised by our chamber is that there has to be transparent improvement in the quality of public sector contribution to the economic output of our country. You can't have the public service costing you a whole bunch of money and being an impediment to your being able to conduct business in the country. Nor can you have the public service not be a net contributor to the gross economic output of the country. These are fundamental issues that have to be addressed by us as a country. As John said, we're going to have a long-term, rational, and sustainable fix to our current issue of fiscal deficit. Two more points that have been raised by our membership is that, one, there must be a policy commitment, a clear, distinct policy commitment to the ease of doing business in our country. That is critical to us, critical for us as business people, particularly in the service industry. Critical, distinct, clear, transparent commitment to easing how business is done in our country. And lastly, our membership feels very strongly that the government of the Bahamas, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and business licensees should come together in a joint declaration and commitment to pursue economic development of Grand Bahama Island within the framework of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. It scares me sometimes when I echo what Sarah is saying, but the reality is we believe that the HCA is very important to the economy of our country and the economy of people. Most of the companies that have a presence here in Freeport are here because of the value of the benefits they enjoy under the HCA. They were sold on those benefits. They came here largely because of those benefits, and those benefits factor heavily into the value proposition for their business models. Without those values, their operations suffer and are economically in peril. We know from our many chamber meetings, both public and behind closed doors, that subsequent to last summer's changes to the Customs Management Act, member companies are reassessing and in some cases have made decisions to scale down or pull back in the face of what they perceive to be growing uncertainty as to the reliability of the rules of engagement in Freeport, particularly relating to development leadership and increasing exposure to taxes. So they will welcome the comments made earlier today by the minister. In their minds, the deal that was made is a deal that was made by the country and its regulators, and intelligent provisions of the deal as originally made are appropriately renegotiated. The deal should be made. It is the considered view of licensees that any fundamental change to the provisions requires a consensus of multiple parties: the government, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and licensees. This very simple concept drives the thinking of licensees. It's fundamental to their view that there are legally entrenched provisions of the agreement that should be respected and protected. History affirms that such principles may be unilaterally disregarded, but history also confirms that when businesses face uncertainty in the form of the abrogation of basic rules under which they initially took the investment risk, they pull back or they run. Such uncertainty produces a level of business risk that is simply unacceptable to many businesses. And this has been actively and aggressively a part of discussions we've had in the Chamber over the last several months. It is the Chamber's view that we should be about the mission of making Freeport, and by extension the Bahamas, the most investor-friendly for both Bahamian investors and international investors, the most investor-friendly business center on the planet. How do we credibly and consistently make the case to new investors, whether Bahamian or international, when current investors are uncertain? Sarah mentioned a number of countries, and I'd like to do the same thing with a slightly different point, but it's worth considering. Panama, Cayman Islands, Costa Rica, Dubai, the Emirates, Singapore, all have put in place economic models and have leaped ahead of Freeport and the Bahamas in their success in enabling domestic investment and attracting new international investment. They are presenting to the world models of engagement that say, come, here is what we will do. Here is how we will accommodate you. Here are the compelling reasons why you should choose us over Freeport. The irony is that the few exceptions, the incentives now being successfully offered by our competitors were originally available under provisions of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement almost 60 years ago. As I said earlier, 50 years next year. The HCA was not just a product of its time. In fact, far from it. It was, and in our view, remained as elegant and economic model as can be found anywhere. Decades, in fact, ahead of its time. Regrettably, many of us, even here in Freeport, but throughout the country, in Nassau particularly, have struggled to wrap our heads around the concept of what really was intended by the economic model as captured in the HCA. Simply put, in today's world, you give to get. And truly, I struggle to understand why we have not turbocharged and ridden hard our model of the HCA to really leave in the dust, those countries I just mentioned. Instead, those countries, over the last 60 years, have come into the game and have launched ahead of us so far that with our best efforts, it will take us some time to catch them up. Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, the Bahamas, we need a vibrant, thriving, world-standard international business center in our country. Tourism and banking are sectors in which the challenges will not abate, even if we were to get it finally right within our tourist sector, or in both sectors. We will continue to face, in the case of tourism, fierce, relentless competition, and the not-ending onslaught of the cruise ships to do what they want to do rather than what really best and most to us. And in the case of financial services, we were likely to be for a very, very, very long time constrained by Big Brother to the north and the OECD to the east. International business promoting and welcoming the rapid, ever-changing, knowledge-based enterprises of today is the way for us to go. It's been the way for us to go for generations. It is the way for us to go. We either jump hard into the fray by 2015, or we fall seriously further behind. We either press forward, move forward, engaging in a way that brings opportunity, or the world will move on simply without us. This, in the view of the Chamber, is our great challenge. But we find it fascinating and encouraging that it is also our greatest opportunity. God bless.